AC, Mark was just talking about kind of deepening your connection with the guys now that you've got a year here with this group and the same group coming back. And I just wonder, what this is like for you getting into your second training camp here and having the opportunity to continue to kind of forge that connection even stronger.
Yeah, well, it's been good. Apparently, I have fans here too. No, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it's just a big part of being on a team and being in the team aspect of sports is cultivating relationships, building trust, building equity amongst your teammates and coaches. Just so you can go out there and perform at your best and highest level and have some freedom. And I think through the course of the season last year, just with the different bits of adversity we went through where I was thrust in a couple different roles through the year, and then to be able to play well in the playoffs and come through for the team, it goes a long way, just like you said, building that equity, and then also just the days in between, chopping it up in the locker room after practice, the flights, the bus rides, shoot around, stuff like that time doesn't go unused on good teams. It's filled with conversation, jokes, banter, and just having a year of that under the belt. I feel very, very at home, very, very comfortable here.
Mark was just saying, improvement, like any year, is an absolute necessity for this team. Uh, Anything that you all learned from obviously the 2 month just stretch of battles night in and night out that you feel like is something that you can really apply heading into this season?
Yeah, I think it's always great to test yourself against the best in the league because at the end of the day, the best is what you face, in the finals, conference finals, playoffs. Um, so for us, I think that's kind of where our barometer is as far as when we look in the mirror and try to figure out what we need to get better at. We use a lot of that tape against the best teams in the league. Uh, Not saying we're overlooking the teams that don't make the playoffs or teams that are playing and don't make it, but I think it's a different level of focus, and it's a different type of attack against the best defensive teams in the league, best offensive teams in the league.
Just with that in mind, what have these first few days of practice been like for you guys as a group, being able to get up and down for the first time here?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, I don't think it's your traditional training camp just with the amount of time that we didn't have to recover compared to some teams, but it's still been great to get up and down and play again. I didn't play a lot of pickup this year. It was just mostly workouts and recovery and taking care of my body. So to get back and actually play 5-on-5 and play with the guys again, it's been a lot of fun.
Last year, you were really complimentary of Case, his instincts, and just sort of how he defended. After playing a year with him, what have you learned about him, and where did you see him grow the most as a defender?
Yeah, he's just a unique defender, man. He has, special physical abilities that a lot of people in the league don't have. I mentioned it multiple times last year. Just he blocked more jump shots in a season than I think I've seen, in my career up to that point, which is just, there's no teaching aspect to that. We don't go over that in practice. That's just something that he's good at and that he does on his own. So to see, that part mixed with, just his fearlessness, he doesn't matter. He doesn't care or does it matter who is on the other side. He's just doing, what he does, which what I've talked to him, he's done this from, seventh, eighth grade until his third year in the NBA. So it's just a unique combination of like the fearlessness and then the special physical talents that he has.
That through his own growth, I guess, as a player playing the game himself, going through a couple seasons.
Which part?
Hasting, yeah, just his natural growth as a player.
Yeah, I mean, he's learning from, some of the best in the league, Lou on maybe the defensive end and Shea on the offensive end, and then, obviously everybody else that's really talented around him. But, to be able to see that, and I think that be his only experience in the NBA so far, to see that level, I think that's just what he thinks basketball is now at this level. And he does a great job of matching that. And then obviously, I think he's very intrinsically motivated to be a better version of himself every year, which I think you can tell from the growth he's made from, college to year one to year two to where he's at now. And I don't I don't think that's going to slow down. I think he's a guy that is like a real pro that'll push himself to be better each year.
How much can just the playoffs themselves, the intensity, I mean, every round it goes up and actually winning, how much can that help, not just him, but the entire team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, we talked about earlier, it's the best version of basketball that you can find in the world, I think, is playoff basketball. Um, and having those experiences with that amount of the emotion surrounding it and the intensity surrounding it and the kind of fight or flight feeling of going into a game and then performing well, or not performing well and having to live with that and come back and play better the next game. That just hardens the mind, and then at the end of the day, that allows you to physically go out there and evolve your game and put yourself in positions that I think regular season games don't do. So to be able to go through that and then win, obviously, is the cherry on top.
You much better.
Yeah, 100%.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Alex. How would you describe the first couple days of camp?
Competitive. I think we have a great group of guys. We've been working hard the past 2 days, and it's very competitive. So that's what we wanted. So we're really excited.
So top of scrimmages, drills. What?
I think everything's competitive. Every time you walk in here, it's going to be competitive. Everything we do, drills, when we play, when we shoot, everything's competitive. So a little bit of everything.
Coach mentioned you came back a little bit stronger this season. What's been your focus this offseason to make sure that you came back with a little bit more strength there?
I mean, I think just being ready. The first thing was being 100% healthy with that injury, and then had a lot of time to work on my body. So I wanted to be stronger and be ready to go. Obviously, after my first year, I think that was one of the main things. Was like, got to get stronger. It's a different game than college, and it's what we focused on.
In what areas do you feel like that strength? Do you feel it most now being out there on the court?
I'd probably say defensively, trying to keep guys in front and just being more physical. I think I can see a difference there.
Is that point of attack your primary focus defensively, or is there kind of like a challenge put forth to you by the coaching staff on where they want to see improvement on that end?
I mean, I think obviously for me, I think it was one of the main things I wanted to focus on was being a great defender. I think we have a lot of great defenders on that team, so got to learn a lot from them. And now it's just time for me to just go out there and show that I can guard too.
What was the biggest transition you look back on your rookie year, this time last year? Offensive, defense?
The biggest transition, I mean, offense and defense. I think the speed of the game, I think it's now starting to slow down. But I think when I first got in, that was the biggest transition from college was just the speed of the game and then just being used to that. So I think that was the main thing.
You mentioned defense a lot in this interview, about working on your defense. That's why I asked.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's one of the main things I worked on. But I think I worked on a little bit of everything this offseason. So it's offense and defense for sure.
Sam has talked about how critical it is to play and win with the pass, and obviously that's something that you brought to the table right away as a rookie. How do you feel like the team in general is continuing to level up and improve in that way?
I mean, I think we've done a great job, obviously, moving the ball, being able to be a team, and I think we've done that the past year, and we keep working on it every day. So I think we're on the right path, and we just got to keep putting our head down and working on everything we do.
You guys have a lot of continuity, even down to the training camp guys. You were with them in Vegas and Salt Lake City and Salt Lake. Just what have you seen out of them in terms of how they adapted to this, and just who's maybe stood out to you?
I think they've done a great job. I mean, they're always asking questions, and then obviously when they're out there, they're just out there playing and being competitive. I think CY, I think, was one of the first guys that stood out to me, just being competitive, being out there and asking a lot of questions. So I think he would be the one, but I think they're all standing out so far. All the guys are competitive and trying to be out there and compete with all our guys. So it's really dope. It's really cool.
Post wrist surgery with Dub, we've seen him get a lot of work with his left hand. And as a natural lefty, what's your rating of Dub and what you've seen?
It looks pretty good. It's funny. We were working out yesterday, and he had like a little floater, and I was like, "No, that looks like me, like with the left." So I'd say it's a pretty good rating. I'd give it an 8. He's up there with his left hand right now.
Anybody else?
All right,
Thanks, AJ.
Mark, I see that Thomas is out there, and I wonder what that's like to just have him, and at least he's up and about and able to kind of move around and be alongside you guys here a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. Obviously we've been through this a couple times, and I think it's helpful to strike a balance of, getting those guys on their own schedule so that they're not like here for 7 hours a day, but also having them around the team at appropriate times. Especially, we just had a longer film session and those types of situations, making sure they're exposed to that and they're around the guys enough. I just think that's good for their mental. It's good for the guys to get to know them, and it keeps them connected to the team because they're on the team. They're just not able to play.
You've talked about every player on the team being a developmental player. Specifically with AC, how do you see him continuing to maybe deepen his impact? Not necessarily, broaden, but deepen the connection and impact that he's got with these guys.
Well, he's his role in Chicago when he, came here was different, because of the construction of their team relative to the construction of ours. So he's finding himself in a lot more help situations defensively here, which is a real strength of his. And then we run a lot of obviously like guard to guard pick and rolls because of Chet, mainly, and Jay Will and their ability to stretch. And so getting him involved in those actions with the frequency that he's been involved is also a big one. And there's a lot of nuance to that that he's still learning and picking up and doing a really good job with. So he's got a great, beginner's mind. He just loves the game. He loves to learn about it. And so he sees himself as a developmental player as well. And he's got room to improve, just like everybody else.
I saw early in camp when you got all your team back, is reinforcing things or maybe even adding things. I mean, just the early days, film study and practice. So,
yeah, we add every year. We never want to come out of an off season and after a playoff experience, especially, just running the same thing back. We're trying to solve for, the problems that we know gave us problems or that could come up in the season, and we're always adding. But the platform of the practice, the flow of the practices, the flow of the week is very consistent and predictable, and the fundamental things that we emphasize most and continuously through the season are the same, and we start there every year regardless of how good we were at certain things the year before. And so we're in that process right now. The guys have done a great job of getting their feet on the ground and embracing that, and that's necessary, if you want to rebuild those habits and sharpen that blade.
One of the things that the guys talked a lot about at Media Day was, even after having one of the most statistically dominant seasons in NBA history, that there's room to improve. It wasn't like every series was a sweep and things like that. What are some tangible areas that you feel like this team, where you'd like the team to improve?
Well, the first thing I'll say on that is, I think it can come across as like arrogant if presented the wrong way, because we win the championship, and if you come out of that and it's like we can still get better, that's got a tone of it that doesn't feel great, and that's certainly not where we are. Improvements is necessary in our situation because everyone else is getting better. Both rosters, their coaching staffs are, scheming and getting better. The players themselves are getting better. And if you don't pace ahead of that, you see the best offense in the league, like re-breaks the record every year. The league's getting more and more efficient. And so if you don't pace ahead of that, you fall behind very quickly. And so I want to be clear that improvement is a necessity for us. We don't look at that as like a luxury. It's something we have to do if we want to be good. And then in terms of the tangibles, I think it's, a lot of it is getting a little bit better at the things that happen the most, and so we're not introducing anything new right now. We've got a system in place. The guys have great fluency in that. We don't want to lose our continuity by like turning everything over, but at the same time, we got to go deeper on the things that are, most important. So an example would be the pick and roll relationship between Shea and Isaiah Hartenstein. It was really good last year. There's room for improvement in terms of them learning each other. Our active spacing away from the ball, like the way we move around different drives and different pick and rolls. We were good last year. We were one of the best closeout offenses in the league in the regular season, but we can be better. That dropped off in the playoffs because the closeouts get a little harder. The defense plays a little harder. So those are tangible examples. But I just want to be clear that the focus on improvement isn't just like a talking point. We think it's a necessity.
Shane and Isaiah obviously got a lot of experience playing alongside each other last season. They were also working out together this summer. Just where would you assess, I guess, how they look on the floor together and the improvements they've made in that department compared to this time last year?
They look really good, and they came in here in great shape, in great mental condition. Like they're ready for the start of the season. They love basketball, and worked really hard this summer. There's tangible improvements to their bodies, tangible improvements to their games, and the fact that they're working out together is really cool. We don't, that's not an arranged marriage. They're choosing to do that on their own, which is really neat to see them collaborate like that this early in their tenure as teammates.
Mark, is it mutually beneficial to have college coaches here, and how does that sort of get set up?
They asked to come in, and we have an open door policy on that. As long as the gym doesn't get too crowded, we try to spread it out so it's never like a crowd here. So we try to prioritize the environment and the practice. But yeah, I mean, we definitely, some of our best stuff that we've come up with has come from all different levels, different sports. And so it is mutually beneficial. When they're here, we try to pick their brain and try to, see what we can learn from them as well as what they can learn from us. And then we try to also, give them what they came for. If they're trying to learn something specific, we try to provide that for them.
Anyone else for Coach? Alex going.